Lightgun games have always been a personal favourite of mine. From first playing the likes of Operation Wolf in arcades as a young lad, and then being completely unaware that my beloved ZX Spectrum wasn't quite as powerful as a huge hulking arcade cabinet I'd just been playing on, being mildly devastated that my 128K version, in all its monochromatic glory, didn't quite mirror its arcade counterpart. Regardless of this, it sparked my love of lightgun games, of which the majority released were arcade ports. Throughout the 80s, 90s and early 2000s, lightgun games were common in the home, where a CRT TV took pride of place in living rooms and bedrooms everywhere. However, with the introduction of HD flat-screen TVs, lightgun games in the home sadly died a slow death, and now seem to have ultimately faded away. This unfortunately leaves a catalogue of lightgun games, some good and some otherwise, to potentially never being played again, and ultimately risk being forgotten about. We do need to however highlight the Sinden Lightgun, which allows you to play lightgun games on your modern TVs. However, this is used only on PCs, and for the purposes of this video, we'll be focusing on console lightgun games. So welcome to Fistful of Gamepad, I'm Rick, and this is 3 great lightgun arcade ports from the good old CRT TV days. Number 1, The House of the Dead. Released in arcades in Japan in 1996 and internationally the year after, House of the Dead was then ported to the Sega Saturn in 1998. The best way to describe House of the Dead is Virtual Cop with zombies.
I'd buy that for $1.
You play as one of 2 special AMS agents, Tom Rogan or G, who have been sent to investigate the mansion of Dr. Curian, a genetic engineer who's lost the plot and produced a horde of horrible hostile Hellions and plans to destroy humanity. The game is an on-rail shooter which has you making your way through the monster-filled mansion, dispatching a variety of vile adversaries. These include various zombies ranging from the unarmed to the axe, chainsaw, sledgehammer, as well as quick, nimble suit-wearing zombies with razor-sharp claws, gooey, watery zombies, as well as a host of zombified animals who are all looking to take a chunk out of you. At the end of each level, you are treated to the obligatory boss battle, where you have to pump round after round into a specific weak point in order to take them down. To even the odds, you're equipped with your light gun, otherwise known as the virtual gun or the stunner if you were playing in North America. The Japanese version came in black, but due to increased gun crime and fear of giving scaremongering politicians more reasons to blame video games for all the world's woes, the North American and European versions were painted bright blue and red. You can also use third-party light guns, but I've always found the official Sega ones very comfortable and very accurate. Perfect for picking off any undead mansion dwellers. As you shoot your way through the mansion, there are branching paths you can take, depending on if you save certain scientists or shoot specific entrances. Saving a scientist also usually results in them rewarding you with an extra life, as a thank you for your quick thinking and sharp shooting.
Thank you.
Because, let's be honest, there's no other real reason to save them, and the only thing that stops you from shooting them as they run into your line of fire like a moth to a flame is that it costs you a life. Scattered throughout the mansion are item boxes and pots, which contain points bonuses. At the end of each level, depending on how many scientists you've saved, you can be rewarded with an extra life or 2. You have to be quick on the draw as you make your way through the levels, as zombies burst out of nowhere, crash through windows and appear right in your face as you turn a corner. As you shoot the zombies, you inflict damage on them and can either look to strategically dismember them or go straight for the headshot. The action is fast, frantic, and because of the accuracy of the virtual gun, lots of fun. It's almost like having the arcade in your home. And I say almost because unfortunately, House of the Dead, graphically, let's be honest, is a pixelated, ugly mess, and really not representative of what the Saturn can do. Now, we weren't expecting an arcade perfect port graphically, as the arcade ran on Sega's Model 2 arcade system, but so did Virtual Cop 1 and 2, and the conversions of those were a lot better, especially Virtual Cop 1. But Virtual Cop 1 and 2 were developed by Sega, and House of the Dead was developed by Tantalus Interactive, under a apparently very short development schedule with, let's be honest, a much more graphically complex game, which ultimately shows in the final product. Plus, House of the Dead was released very late in the Saturn's life, and I think by now Sega were more focused on the Dreamcast, so weren't really too bothered about House of the Dead, as they knew the Saturn was on its way out. However, I think the gameplay is all still there, and despite the low-grade graphics, this is still a lot of fun. However, to pick up a European PAL or NTSC version, you'll need very deep pockets, as, due to the game being released late in the Saturn's life, copies are rather scarce, causing the price of the House of the Dead to be frankly ridiculous. And all you're really getting over the Japanese version is red blood over green. The dialogue and titles are all in English, all there are is Japanese subtitles, which don't affect the game at all. All you'll need is an action replay cart to play it on your European Saturn and you're good to go. But be warned, even the usually affordable Japanese version is starting to climb in price. There's a remake coming out for the Switch soon, so hopefully this will resurrect interest in the House of the Dead franchise. Number 2. Mad Dog Mccree. This early 90s live action arcade game was found in pretty much every big arcade, cinema or bowling alley at the time. It was later ported to the Mega CD, CDI, 3DO and then later to DVD, Wii and the PS3. You play as the nameless stranger and have to shoot your way through 4 stages to rescue the mayor's daughter and defeat the evil Mad Dog. Along the way, you're given specific information from passers-by and people you rescue that you'll need in order to progress. These are usually along the lines of which specific routes to take or which items to shoot in order to advance.
Mad Dog will get me for telling you this, but if you get to the hideout, don't approach from the rear!
If you're too busy being dazzled by the Oscar-worthy acting, miss these important pointers and end up taking the wrong path or shoot the wrong item, then it's instant death. There are also quick draw sections where you enter a generic western standoff against a generic filthy varmint and have to gun him down before he does the same to you, which can be really frustrating initially. But once you get the hang of it and have learnt the timings, you'll be able to gun them down no problem. The arcade game was really impressive at the time as it used live action footage, which gave the game a much more cinematic feel. This was due to the game running on Laserdisc, which allowed for the inclusion of live action footage and the ability to quickly cut between the various scenes and outcomes depending on your actions. Each of the generically western levels has a specific goal that you must complete in order to advance.
Be careful, that's Mad Dog's boys over there.
For example, you have to get the key from One-Eyed Jack, who's in the saloon.
Looking at my keys, stranger?
To be able to get the sheriff out of jail, who will then tell you what to do next.
Mad Dog, you don't stand a chance. Let's go get him, stranger.
Your weapon of choice is the traditional Western 6-shooter, which you reload by shooting outside of the screen. You can also shoot items like cattle skulls to get bonuses like additional ammo. As you make your way through each level, armed bad guys pop out from behind cover and you have to take them out before they fill you full of lead and crap 90s acting. If you shoot them first, then they die in spectacular Western B-movie fashion. But if they get you first, or if you shoot an innocent bystander or hostage, then you lose a life, have to repeat the section, and are treated to a patronising put-down by the local undertaker.
Population 64.
All I can say is, get used to seeing this guy and his condescending critical comments, as you'll be seeing him a lot throughout your time with this game.
You better get lucky, or you're going to be dead. You've only got one life left.
Luckily, you don't have to stick around to listen to him. The main issue with Mad Dog Mccree's gameplay is that, due to the limitations of the technology, you're only given a small window of opportunity to shoot the enemies, a window that you're given no indication of when it starts or ends. It's not like in Time Crisis where you get to tell you when you can start unleashing carnage. With Mad Dog Mccree, in typical arcade coin guzzling fashion, it's trial and error. If you try and fire too early, it won't register. And if you try and fire too late, you'll most likely have already been gunned down by them. So, much like in life, you have to keep a firm grip on your weapon, watch where you're aiming, and don't shoot too early or too late. Visually, the game is very 90s, with that made-for-TV look to it. The set used you've probably seen in countless TV programmes on a Saturday afternoon back in the day. The ones that we used to fill that 2 to 4 PM time slot, usually before the news and Gladiators was on. But the visuals are bright with a typical sun-bleached western look to them, and the cast are all dressed in generic western costumes, which adds to the fun of the game. But you can tell from playing the game that the budget for Mad Dog Mccree wasn't the biggest, and they had to make the most of the resources they had.
Hi, you're new around these parts. You heading into my daddy's town? He's the mayor.
Which brings us on to the best part of this game, the acting. Mad Dog Mccree has some of the best acting you'll ever see outside of an episode of Casualty or Hollyoaks. With moments of fraught tension,
Be careful, that's Mad Dog's boys over there.
exciting law enforcement collaborations,
Mad Dog, you don't stand a chance. Let's go get him, stranger.
and some of the most convincing, emotional, heart-wrenching death scenes that will bring tears to your eyes. The game is not long, and once you've replayed it a number of times, got used to the timings of the quick draw levels and the location of the bad guys, you'll be able to breeze through the game in less than 15 minutes. And will only really come back to it when you're in the mood for a slice of 90s nostalgia with a side of very hammy acting.
I got a bad feeling. We're gonna need you again, stranger.
Overall, Mad Dog Mccree is a flawed game, but it's a very fun flawed game, and perfect for playing when you're in the mood for a bit of 90s nostalgia. For £10 to £15, you can pick up the Gunslinger pack on the Wii, which also has Mad Dog Mccree 2 and The Last Bounty Hunter, where things are just as cheesy as Mad Dog 1, but with a slightly bigger budget, but alas, not much better acting.
I got a short fuse too, stranger.
Got a light?
Number 3. T2, the arcade game. Think Operation Wolf, but with Terminator flavoured pants on, and you have T2, the arcade game. Another staple of arcades in the 90s, this cabinet comprised of 2 mounted guns which had, if I remember correctly from back in the day, some serious recoil to them. The game was being developed by Midway at the same time the film was being shot, and uses digitised actors including Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robert Patrick and Edward Furlong. As with most popular arcade games, it inevitably saw a home release on various computers and consoles, of which I got for my birthday back in the day, along with the Sega Menacer, for that authentic arcade experience in your home. You play as a T-800 who must protect John Connor and save humanity. As you do, you make your way through 7 stages, ranging from the future war, to the Cyberdyne building, to the climactic steel mill. The game is your basic 90s light gun shooter. You make your way from left to right shooting Terminators, both endoskeletons and leather-clad Arnold variants, flying HKs, SWAT teams, and whatever the hell these things are. There's the obligatory boss shootout at the end of some levels, where you have to take out bosses ranging from a huge ground HK to Skynet's main defence computer. Your main weapon is a machine gun, which has unlimited ammunition, although you need to keep collecting power-ups to keep your fire rate up, otherwise it slows down to a trickle. You can also pick up health and weapon power-ups by shooting the vast amounts of bonuses and item boxes scattered throughout the levels, and you have a secondary fire button, which ranges from a missile launcher to a shotgun. There are resistance fighters, as well as John and Sarah Connor, who you must ensure that you don't shoot. Graphically, the game is as faithful to the arcade as it can be, but obviously sacrifices were made in order to be able to bring it home to the megadrive. The main sacrifice being that the digitised characters of the arcade were replaced with drawn pixel characters, which still look good enough. The elevator section in level 3 was completely removed, as was the helicopter in the Cyberdyne level. The small FMV clips at the end were also removed for obvious reasons. The copy and paste sprites range from small to large and imposing, with the level of detailed animation you'd expect from a scaled down arcade conversion. Environments are destructible, which give you bonuses, and some levels call for you to basically destroy everything in sight. Sound design looks to further bring the arcade experience to the home and is generally a bit of a mixed bag, A lot of the digitised speech from the arcade was removed, but the machine gun fire and booming explosions are accompanied by an exciting soundtrack, which, while unfortunately having no sign of Brad Fiedel's famous score anywhere to be heard of, still keeps things relatively exciting. The game, in the arcade style of having the sole purpose of encouraging you to keep pumping 50p and pound coins into it, is difficult, and you'll be relentlessly bombarded with wave after wave of enemies. You can't change the difficulty setting because, well, there are none, but you can increase the number of credits, aka lives you have, to give you a bit of a fighting chance, and there is a level skip cheat too if you feel like you can't be bothered with certain levels. This comes in very handy for levels which can be very frustrating. Examples of these are level 3, where you have to defend John Connor in the pickup truck from a swarm of endoskeletons and a flying HK, or where you have to fend off the T-1000 who comes at you with a helicopter and then a tanker as you drive to the steel mill, which, if you're not quick enough on the draw, results in an instant death. Gameplay is mixed up a bit towards the end of the game, where you have to shoot the liquid nitrogen tanker to freeze the T-1000, and then shoot him in each eye and then in the centre of the head to be able to then blast him back to the edge of the platform before picking up the grenade launcher and blasting him into the molten steel. At the end of each level, you get a summary of how many enemies you've killed and your accuracy, along with a decent digitised image of Arnold, which is a notable improvement over the one we got in the first Terminator game on the Mega Drive. Again, the length of the game is short and only consists of 7 short stages. The only aspect that increases the duration are the insta-death sections of the truck and helicopter chase levels, which will have you restarting from the very beginning of the level. But after you've grown tired and frustrated of the unfair difficulty of these levels, you'll most likely end up skipping them via the cheat. There are no additional levels or modes, but as with most retro games, it's the nostalgia of this game that has me personally coming back to it. And that just about does it for my list of 3 great light gun arcade ports from the good old CRT TV days. Let me know your favourite light gun games in the comments below, or even any particular light gun games that you're not so keen on. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.